Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday Wisdom for today. Our Wednesday Wisdom is a series of public webinar focused on delivering relevant information to support business connectivity and sustainability in a region. Each session like these feature local business and subject matter experts and the opportunity for a Q&A at the end. Some quick housekeeping. This is being live streamed to our Facebook. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the comment section of this live stream and we'll ask them to our experts on your behalf. And then we will also have the opportunity for this recording to be available on our YouTube page and our Facebook page at the end of the week, should you feel the need to share with any one of your colleagues or anyone who you think this information will benefit. Today's Wednesday Wisdom session will be geared towards everyday users of your company's technology and the risks they encounter on a daily, not just the IT professionals of those organizations. Attendees here today and viewers will learn how to handle spam, phishing emails properly, and secure their most sensitive personal information better and more than that there. So without further delay, let's welcome our cybersecurity experts from Phasor Corporation. We have Scott Wilson, Senior Cybersecurity Analyst, Robert Ayers, Senior Cybersecurity Analyst, and Tom Grzinski, COO and VP of Marketing of Phasor Corporation. So gents, you want to take it away?
Thank you for that introduction, Ahmed. And thank you all. If you're watching this, you have a concern that's valid about end users and your company's security, and what can we do better with that, right? So I love the title. It's Cybersecurity Simplified. So we're going to keep it simple. But the first thing I think we want to consider is, what are our company's crown jewels? What are we most concerned about? What are our end users? What do they have the ability to give up? Could it be our website? You know, are we based heavily on our website presence and our sales? Is it the phone system? Possibly. Reputation. You know, if we have a compromised email address and it's sending out emails, is that an issue? Payroll, maybe, that's important. How about customer personal information? We don't want to leak that out. So knowing what it is that we want to protect, I think is really the starting of a cybersecurity posture. Today we're going to focus around email. Can I have the next slide, Tom? If you lost use of your technology in your business tomorrow, do you know what you would need to stay in business? Seems like a simple question, but many business owners don't have the answers, right? And it's kind of the questions I asked just a moment ago. What technology do we need? I think we got a lesson in that during COVID when people were remote, and we got a taste of business continuity. What do we need to do when people are not available in the office like we're used to them being? So we got a good taste of that. Next one. And you can just go all down to 2 or 3 of these, please, Tom. Right, so here we go. The website, the email, your contact list. What are the keys to your castle? Go to the next slide, Tom. Next slide. All right, and you can just go, I think there's 4 buttons you can hit on this. So yes, employee training. What, in a perfect world, we're going to get phished. Our people are going to get phished in their email, especially if your email addresses are advertised on the website. The best way to handle that is the form, contact us, and then on a one-to-one basis, the sales team, whomever, can contact them. But if we're advertising email addresses on our website, they're being gathered and they're now being sold for phishing attacks. Do our users know what a phishing attack looks like? I can tell you that when people get the invoice for say Norton, McAfee, Best Buy, that's a pretty obvious one. But what if it's say an Office 365 login that they've used before and it looks legit, but they're not used to getting it from this person. They have no idea why they would get it from this person. What steps are they taking to legitimize, is this real or is it not? The simplest thing, you can pick up the phone and call the sender, ask them if it was real or not, and they'll tell you. But what if we had email securities that actually filtered those out before they ended up with our employee? But off topic, onto the training. Training is email, and our users are the #1 vessel of compromise. Training's important. Training could be, if we have cybersecurity insurance, that could be a compliancy. We have to meet for our cybersecurity insurance. We have to check the box. Yes, we are training the employees at least once a year. How do you train employees? You can train them very easily with phishing scenarios where you're actually controlling the phish. If they click on the link, then you have to, a little bit more work needs to be done with certain users. Phishing attacks, phishing emails and messages that are a common threat. Fraudulent emails to trick employees into revealing sensitive information or downloading malware.
PDF documents, Scott, is another one. I had a customer this morning call. They clicked on a PDF document. They happen to be waiting on a document from someone. They've got a malicious one in their inbox. They saw that it was a DocuSign. They were waiting for it. They clicked it. They gave their username and password. It's the day-to-day things that are creating the most risk for the business. You can have the most advanced security stack that money can buy, and if your end user doesn't know the difference between a good email and a malicious email and how to identify those facts, you can still be the victim of a business email compromise. And I'm sorry to take away, but I wanted to get this out here. This is a key point. 90% or more of all cyber attacks that you hear about in the news are the direct result of a business email compromise, meaning the user and end user clicked on a link, thought they were logging into their email, typed their username and their password, and they were allowed full access to that user's mailbox. Just think what is in your mailbox that is of value to other people. Your bank notes, your credit card information, proof of credit card payments, any electronic transactions you've done, any documents that you've created and shared with other people via email, and or anything that contains privileged information, all of which can be used for any of the above that we're talking about here. Go ahead, Scott.
Robert, while I got you, how does a bad actor acquire a business email compromise? How are they able to take over an employee's mailbox?
Well, basically what happens is an email will come in, it'll be a link, maybe your password expired, maybe you've got to update your mailbox credentials, something along those lines. The user recognizes that, they read it. There's usually some scare tactics involved regarding, hey, we're going to delete your mailbox, you're going to lose access to your account. Any of those things could be, involved in that particular content. And they say yes, and they click the email. Well, what happens is by clicking that email, it takes them to another website on the internet that sometimes will mirror the site they're used to seeing every day when they log in via a web browser to check their mail. The images will be exact, the wording will be exact. It will look like they're really logging in to check their email online. They type their username, they type their password, they click OK. What happens is the bad actor then redirects those credentials to a site via JavaScript, sending the information about the user, the link that was clicked, the information from the computer, to a bad site which they have access to. Right after it does that, it then redirects them to the real email site, and they think they mistakenly typed their password, in which they type their username, they type their password again, and they're allowed access to their email. And you would think at that point it would kind of be done because the person's legitimately in their own mailbox online. However, what's going on the back end is the malicious actor is using a script, collecting those username and passwords, and logging in as that user. Now, over the course of the better part of the last 10 years of doing these analysis and investigations, I've seen a lot of different tactics. The most recent being they create a rule in the person's mailbox with the rule name of a dot, period. In the action of delete everything that comes into this mailbox that includes the @ symbol in the recipient field. Now, on the surface, you really don't think much about it, but every email address that comes from someone contains the @ symbol. So every message that comes in the mailbox will be deleted. They then generate mass amounts of email with the same link or links to another site that will collect username and passwords from members of your inbox, members of your contact lists, or anyone that you've sent messages to in the past, as well as randomly generated and usually in the hundreds of messages are sent out to convince other people using your business name and your email address that they too should click this link. And they do. And the exercise continues. So that's just one aspect of it. We've also seen incidents where people have compromised their password, they log into their email box, and they just start looking at things. Again, I mentioned earlier, think about the contents of your mailbox. What is in there that could be of value to someone else? If you're not using a form of multi-factor authentication, there's no extra controls in place that will prevent that malicious actor from logging into your mailbox. And then that goes into the last one, weak passwords. Just about everybody here knows someone who uses a password. It might be their first name, might be their last name, might be their wife's name, their husband's name, their dog's name. Microsoft has cut down on that, as well as other providers, and they don't allow that to happen anymore because they're very easily guessed. So if you're on Facebook, for example, and you see a friend of yours or maybe an anonymous posting, hey, tell us what you liked about when you grew up. And they ask you a whole bunch of questions and you answer them. You're providing information to the world about your name to use for password attacks. And they work. They work well because people always want to use the easiest thing to remember. What's even worse is they write it on a sticky tape or a piece of sticky pad or a note, and they stick it to the monitor. And the password's right there in plain sight. So coupling all of these things together, the risks that are out there are real, and they're very, very expensive should they occur. Everybody's probably heard of the Luzerne County breach. That was a direct result of an email. There's been others. There was recently one announced from a big casino. They got in, they attacked the network the slot machines are on, and basically wanted money. So the casino, of course, has to rebuild. Think of that volume of money. How much is lost in a day? And you might say to yourself, what do I have to lose? And I'll go back to the original question. What is in your mailbox? If you're like most users, everything about your life is in your mailbox. If I wanted to stay in there and read it or create a rule to send it to another email address or forward the email out to someone so I didn't have to log back in and get detected, someone could learn the day-to-day functions of your business relatively easily. You may not even know they were there unless they did something malicious to get detected, or you had somebody that noticed the outgoing mail rule, or they can create a domain that's very similar to yours. I've seen that happen as well. The bad actor compromised an account, logged into the account, monitored the account, and sent all the outgoing mail to themselves in a foreign country. For a couple months, they learned the day-to-day business practices of the business, and inevitably registered a domain name that was one character off of the domain. So for example, if it was Apple, it would be APPILE. Your eye is not smart enough to pick that up when you're sending an email. And once you've typed it, it is in the subject line automatically. It pre-populates. So if you don't catch it, you're going to send an email to the wrong person. And in this case that I was referring to, they created a fraudulent wire transfer. And after 6 months of monitoring the business, knowing who talked to who, how they did things, when they did things, how the individual spoke to the people that were doing the wire transfer, it was accepted. They lost a lot of money on a fictitious wire transfer, which they inevitably ended up getting a majority of it back. But had they known what these emails look like, that would not happen.
Yeah.
Had
you
they
know,
had two-factor, that would not happen.
and that's a great point, knowing what these emails look like, and even the ability to legitimize it. And you do not want to legitimize it on the network. You know, you need an outlet to say, yes, this is bad, or a real trained eye. You and I have the trained eye. It's the small business that I'm concerned about that don't have the trained eye, and they're ultimately going to get owned. That was great, Robert. Down the rabbit hole of business email compromise, and it's a scary real thing, and we see it all the time. Email best practices. Are you bound by any regulatory requirements, compliances, any HIPAAs?
GDPR.
PII? Go ahead, Robert.
GDPR. If you deal a lot with the companies in Europe, you may be affected by the GDPR regulations. Do your partners, vendors, customers encrypt their data? It's all PII. Imagine if you're an attorney or an accountant, and if you're an accountant and you're sending out people's tax returns to them unencrypted, that mail exists in your inbox or in their inbox. A lot of privileged information is sent out via email unencrypted. And the risks are that if it's in your mailbox and it's not encrypted, someone who has unauthorized access to your mailbox could certainly look at it, do screen shares, take a picture of the screen. You may not even know they downloaded it or printed it or even took it. But what do you think would happen to an accountant if, you know, down the road, 6 months later after tax season, your tax returns posted on the internet? Inevitably, somebody would have to investigate that and figure out that, hey, you sent the tax return to one of your clients unencrypted. Banks, you would think banks would be, you know, on top of their game when it comes for this encrypted data transfer. Most are not. If you have to sign a document and send it to your bank, they say sign it. Whatever information's on it, you scan it, you take a picture of it with your phone, you attach it to your email, because anybody could download a free program to take a picture of a document and save it as a PDF, and it's gone. And you don't think about it, but your social security number may have been on there, your medical information may have been on there, your tax information, your bank account information, and it's all out there. Not to mention that it could get stolen in transit, but the likelihood is that it's going to get stolen or accessed when your mailbox gets accessed by an unauthorized party. All of these risks don't seem to be too big initially, but they all snowball into data breaches, and all are a result of bad email practices, no training in identifying how to ascertain whether an email message is good or bad, or what to look for in those email messages. And for the businesses that don't have their own IT staff or don't have, you know, a large group of people who have a lot of experience in this, or in some cases a relative who just happens to know IT, hey, John, could you come in and fix this? And they do. the risks are enormous. And what you're going to see, and Scott and I have seen it now to some extent, and I've reviewed many policies that people have had written, and the insurance companies are now requiring various forms of technology before they issue cyber insurance policies. And guess what? You have to sign a document that's binding you to perform those actions that you say you're performing. In the event of a breach, that's the first thing they look at. Are you doing what you said you were doing? And in some cases, they're telling you they're not going to give you a policy unless you are doing these things. And then that becomes down to, is your staff capable to implement these technologies? Do you need a partner to implement these technologies on your behalf? All of these things are coming more and more to the forefront as the breaches continue to occur. And there are hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses that are a result of these breaches. Can you imagine your business being shut down for 15 days because your entire company's network had to be rebuilt? All the machines reloaded, all of your emails scrubbed, all reconfigured, all of your desktops, all of your workstations, all of your cell phones, mobile devices. How much would you lose if that were the case? And the big thing is, it all goes back to training. The simplest of all things to accomplish from a small business perspective. And I know everybody says, oh, well, we don't have the time. We can't be doing the training. We can't pay them to go anywhere. But it's as simple as an email phishing test. There are solutions out there. We offer them. There are many companies that offer them, where they perform the testing on your behalf. They send those malicious emails to your customers. And when they're all sent and the reactions and the results are all contained and correlated, at the end of the phishing campaign, if you become the victim of one, they usually give you a video, some sort of small training, and point out the issues of the email that you clicked on. Nobody's saying send them for a week of training, but at least do the minimums to help them better perform their job, because email is probably a very large part of just among all your staff's day-to-day routines while working for your corporation or company.
Yeah, Robert, I heard a large ransomware company that paid the ransom asked the bad actors what they could have done different. So, and they said training. They did pay a multi-million-dollar ransom to get their network back online. But imagine saving that millions, training the people beforehand. To have to ask the bad actors, how did you do this? How did you get in? When big companies, big ransomware, people that pay are asked, what have you done different? They say, majority says, we would have had an assessment done beforehand and listened to the suggestions in that assessment. We would have known our environment, known our strengths and weaknesses, what we could have done better.
And that's a great point, Scott. There's been very large organizations on the East Coast of the United States. I don't want to mention any names, but I'll tell you the industry, petroleum, that had performed those assessments a number of times. And someone in the administration and the senior leadership of the company made the decision to not implement the technologies that were not only recommended once, but twice, and documented in email to these executives of this company. Fast forward 12, 14 months later, they had a giant breach as a result of email. They spent millions of dollars to figure out what happened. And in the course of that, they identified the company that came in and performed the assessment. And of course, that was all brought into evidence. And when they all looked at this and they said, it was great that you reached out and had someone come in and provide suggestions and recommendations on how to better secure your company. but you chose not to do any of them. And it puts the onus of responsibility where it belongs, on the owner of the company. And a lot of instances, they're aware, but you hear, well, it won't happen to me. Well, inevitably, to state a fact, it will happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And the whole value in this presentation today is at least to put out there for you to think about your particular business, what you do, where your data lies. How would you survive if you didn't have access to it? Would you be able to survive? And get those questions in your mind. And that was good timing, Tom, on that slide. And that leads us to the question and answer part of this slide. This presentation was not meant to be a sales pitch. It was meant to provide a thought-provoking process to you that you would think about your individual businesses and how they would survive. What would you do? And to examine the practices that you have in place today and ask yourself the simple question: is this something we need to look into more? If you want to talk offline and you have a subject matter that might be a little private, we're more than welcome to entertain offline conversations with any of you. If you have questions now, feel free to bring them up. We could address them. Be as detailed or vague as you are comfortable in doing. Our contact information will be provided at the end and in the presentation. And we'd love to answer any question you have that you have a concern with. What keeps you up at night in regards to cybersecurity in your business? Scott, if you want to add anything, go ahead.
If we don't have any questions, I'll ask you a question and I'm happy to answer with my opinion. Where do I start? What is the bare minimum to keep my technology safe?
If I had to answer that question alone, and without knowing a little bit more information about your business and your practices and your email solutions and your websites, I would say to explore multi-factor authentication. If you are not using it already, that alone can save you. Will it be the be-all, end-all for cybersecurity for you and your business? Probably not. But not having it will certainly greatly increase the risk that you face should someone click on one of these malicious messages.
Good answer, very upstream. How about an endpoint protection that actually someone looks at the alerts?
Well, monitoring's a different ball of wax. Monitoring's more of a managed service. And honestly, I don't know of any small business really that looks at Windows event logs or whatever subscriber or solution mail provider they have, analyzes those logs. It's also a double-edged sword. You would hope that by paying a service, such as a commercial hosting or a commercial email provider, and again, I'm going to stay away from naming names, that you are getting the aggressive security solutions that you think would be adequate for your business. And time again, it's been my experience that's not the case. The call I mentioned this morning was a very large provider. The customer was under the impression that they had all of this security enabled. And after probably less than 10-minute assessment of their mail service, they really had nothing implemented. And they were a victim 3 times I know of in the past 3 months of malicious emails. And you mentioned endpoint, and that's a good fact here. For the majority of workstations in use, most are of the Windows operating system, their solution is Microsoft Defender, and it is a good solution. However, it is not the end-all, be-all solution. It's not going to detect a lot of malicious activity that is relatively new. I'm sure most people have heard the term 0-day. It's thrown around a lot in the industry and basically means this email, this document, this malicious executable, this file hasn't been detected in the wild. So it's relatively new. It may be targeted at your individual business alone. And that's been the case in many of the large breaches that I've been on. They were true patient zero, meaning they were the first person or the first group of people to get affected by that malicious content. And the endpoint solutions out there just don't detect it. Once it's out in the wild for a little while, then they start to collect the intelligence to be able to detect that at the desktop level. So
Gotcha.
if you're not looking for unusual behavior, or someone's not saying to you, hey, I've been sending email all morning, but I'm not getting anything back, and I'm asking people to reply if they get this, I'm not getting them. And they want to know why.
Gotcha. Hey,
Someone
there's a
really needs to
question.
look at that.
There's a question in the chat. I'm going to pose it up here. If I was a small business and I was moving in and I was going to, from the ground up, just build out the network, what security and network considerations would I have?
Well, there's a lot. That's a really deep question. And, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the old adage was, we'll get the best firewall we could afford and we'll put it up and we'll run an antivirus on our computers and we'll be good. But over the course of the past, well, like you said earlier, with COVID, say 3 years, say 5 years, a lot of users are now not in the office. They're working from home. So technically speaking, you need a solution that works on the device they're working on when they're in the office and when they're at home. I was just involved in a case where the company had a lot of security controls and they were applied to everything on the corporate network. But when the user was at home, the security controls that were in the company's office in their headquarters were not being applied to the device they were working on because they were on their own internet connection. They weren't connected to a corporate VPN. They were logging in directly to the mail service provider from office.com. And that's problematic because all those tools that you're putting in place in the office might not work on that device when it's in their residence, on their personal network. It might not be configured that way. Now, if you add a VPN when they VPN in, or they're on a private network with the company, yes, those controls will be in place. But it's a deep question, and we can certainly dwell on that or dig into that a little further if the customer that's on the call has the interest.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit it from 30,000 feet. If I would probably consider what needs to be on-prem, what needs to be on the network. Do I have servers on the network? If I do have physical servers on the network and I really don't want to worry about physical security at all, I would consider a co-location, put a rack out there, and the redundancy for power, AC, network connection is like a cloud solution, right? If I had to have prem stuff. And then I'd be seeing what I could send off to the cloud. As far as network security and setup, you hitting on the firewall, perfect. The site-to-site VPN with whether it be the colo or the cloud is another very secure way of handling that. Good question, Mr. Travis. So, yeah. What else can we talk about, Robert? Just real quick, I think the threat, regarding VPNs, I've been looking into OpenVPN a little bit. Is there any sentiment regarding different companies or providers for a VPN solution?
I personally do use OpenVPN. When I'm in my house on my own network, I use OpenVPN. It allows me to get back in when I'm on the outside to the devices that exist in my on my desk and my security tools. You have to do some configuring. Obviously, there's some client installations that have to take place on anything that you want to be able to access remotely. on that particular network. In my case, all of the laptops have the Open VPN client that starts and connects to the VPN when they reboot. If I'm on the road, I'm on a MiFi. I'm not connected to a hotel wireless. A lot of, I don't want to say malicious activity, but the risk of something happening when you're connected to a public Wi-Fi is a lot more than if you're on a private MiFi. I wouldn't connect to a hotel wireless solution without connecting to a corporate VPN. You need that traffic to be protected. There's many ways out there that you could sniff that traffic, steal usernames, passwords, all of the like. But I mean, I just saw a pop-up there. I wanted to make sure that's perfect. I mean, the VPN usage is perfect. Someone's at their house, they connect to their own network. You have the client that they're going to remote into, whether it be a Microsoft solution or an on-prem server or a cloud-based solution. I have many cloud-based servers. They have VPN solutions from the provider that I use, but again, I also use OpenVPN. Do I believe it's secure? Yeah, it's as secure as you're going to get for that type of client. Would it be better if you were a private VPN and you had your own VPN solution? Sure, because then you can control both sides of it. But it's an added layer of security that will protect your data for your remote workers.
I don't use the OpenVPN so much. Do they have the two-factor option?
They do.
Perfect. 1 to 2-factor that VPN.
And we also have the SSL certs. I just put a new server up in the cloud. We purchased the SSL certs for the server itself and for accessing the ports. And we've added some controls along who could access the ports based on their client network, on their home network. So not only do we have two-factor, we've restricted it to the specific static IP address. So that takes probably 98% of the risk out of it. They can't get to the tools to configure the server, but they can get to the public side of the solution.
Good stuff.
Well, are we good? I guess we're around, what, about 45 minutes? Anything else?
Ahmad, can you think of anything based on what we said that you might have a question about? I mean, just look at the chamber as a business owner. Say it was your business. Look at the practices that you have.
Yes, I think
What concerns you about all of the business data that you've collected?
I think the main thing on this end, I think you touched on a couple of times, is the sort of the user error. You know, oftentimes many companies have turnover where they're either recycling the same laptop or changing the passwords and giving access to different CRMs or web pages and such to new employees that come on. More so, what are some best practices that you guys see that companies are doing to keep that top of mind? You know, because everybody's so inundated with their day-to-day work. You know, how's it that a company or a small business can keep their employees in the know about the risks that are out there when they're on their emails or representing their companies digitally?
Well, the easiest way is the phishing assessments. I mean, they're non-intrusive. They're not expensive. They don't take the user's time. You're not going to have to pay the user to go somewhere. You're not going to have to buy a solution that sits there and the user is required to watch hour-long videos. Although those are great, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. For a small business that has 5 employees, 3 employees, that's not feasible. But yet the risk is still the same if they don't do something, right? You can't necessarily say, hey, you clicked on a phishing message and you compromised our whole company and now we've been hacked, right? Well, technically you could say it, but is there any validity to that? If you've never trained an employee, the assumption of the owner of the business or manager of the business is that Everybody knows how to do this. The end user says, I really don't know how to do it. I know how to do my job. I know how to read email, but I don't know that you can use different character sets to mimic different letters of the alphabet. They're not the same. They don't go to the same place when you use them. So not everybody knows that. There's probably a lot of people that don't really know you can even change the character set of an email, but you can. And these are the risks. And that training will show you many examples. You may get an email. There may be nothing in the body of the email but text, no malicious link to click on, nothing. But there may be a hidden dot in that email that when you open it, it communicates back out and someone knows that that message was read. And it's a dot. And I mean, it's a period on the screen, but it's so small, your eye doesn't even see it. The other thing to mention is, and I'm sure a lot of the people have heard about this, hover over any link you click on. If it doesn't match the company name that you're supposedly clicking on their link, definitely don't click it. I mean, if you hover over the link, it's going to tell you the real place. You can mask the words, but you can't control the content of the link. If they don't match, don't click it. You see a lot of messages sent that say, hey, if you want to unsubscribe to this message, click this link. Well, if you've never subscribed in the first time, why would you unsubscribe? You just gave them a target to become the victim of a phishing message. Just delete the message. If the one that's been around for a long time is the traffic ticket. You were in New York. We've got you driving 75 mile an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone. Here's your ticket. Well, guess what? If I wasn't in New York, I wouldn't click that, but people click it. And the fear is that, well, if I don't click it, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, that I'll tell you, curiosity. Yeah, I'm a weak one for curiosity. One of our most successful phishing campaigns was sent about this time of the year. We know people like to dress up for Halloween. In the past, we've had some inappropriate costumes. For a sample of those costumes, click this link to see what you're not supposed to wear. Boy, people could not resist. Curiosity is a tough one. Ahmed, you asked about training and how to keep them up on what's going on. We've trained big organizations. We've done a training campaign, and you need to start at the top. The president of the company, the boss, the big boss, needs to send out, this is what we're going to do, but they don't want the accountability to make sure everyone's done it, and that's where someone else would fill in that gap to distribute the training and make sure the compliancy that people are actually taking it comes in.
And here's another misconception, and I'm glad you brought up the president of the company. We've also participated in these campaigns, and basically they've excluded the whole senior staff of the business because they didn't want to make them mad. They didn't want to annoy them. They didn't want them to make them look bad, and any number of reasons. And the realism is they should be phished more. Mm-hmm. They're the big risk. If you get those credentials, and in many organizations, they have all of the credentials, whether they know what to do with them or not, they have them, and they become the victim of a phishing message. That's a huge risk. The other one is usually the executive assistant for these administrators and these executives. They too frequently hold the keys to the castle, because when the executive can't figure out something, who does he ask? The executive assistant. So they also have the same credentials. And I've said for years, you can walk up next to cars and throw thumb drives on the ground, and you would be very successful, because the moment you see it, you want to plug it in. What's on this? Well, you may not even see anything occur on your screen. You may not even see the pop-up from the operating system that says, hey, what would you like to do? It may just open it and execute. And what you're not seeing is that machine is sending your machine's information somewhere on the internet, and somebody knows that now they've got a victim. And the person who did it becomes the victim.
Well, I can't thank you all enough for all of the information shared here today. Tom, if you can bring up that screen with your contact informations on it, so folks can get an idea of how they can connect with you guys outside of here. We have a couple more minutes. Is there anything I want to give you the opportunity actually to just tell us a bit more too about some of the services that Phasor Corporation offer outside of just prepping folks for the cybersecurity sort of aspect out there.
Well, Rob, you can do that, and then I'll close with our other side, our electric side.
All right, from our cybersecurity perspective, we offer these assessments that we've talked about. We offer phishing assessments. We offer 24/7 monitoring of your corporate environment, of your corporate email solution. We offer management of your mail solution, proactive management. So we take care of things before you even know that it happens. Scott mentioned earlier log analysis. We routinely, I spend probably the large part of my day doing log analysis for many, many customers' email solutions. We don't delve so much into network implementation. We have partners that do that. We also are a cloud provider. We can sell you those cloud services. We can sell you those cloud email addresses. We can manage those tenants for you. We perform phishing campaigns. We do incident response. If you've been the victim of one of these malicious actions, that's my frequent call. Hey, I've been hacked. What do I do? Usually it just takes a couple seconds of communication with the individual, figure out what's going on, and then perform a game plan. We also do incident response planning. We do emergency action plans, data recovery, disaster planning, disaster preparation, continuance of business, all of those kind of plans we can certainly help you write. If you're interested in cyber insurance, we don't directly sell it, but we can refer you to people, and we can certainly work with you to complete the documentation that they're going to require for you to get that cyber insurance. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Tom.
Robert.
That starts with the assessment, right, Robert? I mean, if we have an
Yep.
assessment, then I think it all falls in line, and maybe we don't need your forensic investigation because we've had an assessment, found some things, tighten them up, and it never goes so far down the rabbit hole that we need the cyber insurance. Let's hope that happens.
And that's the easiest approach. Get an initial assessment, see what you have, and then you can couple that with where your risks are, where the keys to your castle are, and what you need to do to protect that and to continue running your business should something bad happen. And if you can answer those questions, you'll be further ahead than most businesses that I've participated in after breach activity, when they're scrambling and they don't know where their data is and they don't know the URLs and the passwords and all of the other. And that's the problem. Unknowing is a big problem. It's better to know and be prepared than not be prepared and have no idea. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, and the other side of Phasor, what we do is we do critical power, and we do backup power solutions, and we are a APC Schneider reseller and an Eaton Trip Light reseller. So all those critical power solutions that you may need to back up your data and keep it running safely during all your power outages, we can supply those services. And we also do critical power studies. We do arc flash studies. We do coordinated studies, thermal studies, and load bank studies. So if you guys are looking to expand your business and you want to see if you have enough power to expand your business, we do that. And every 5 years, if you have a large building and you need an arc flash study to make sure that everybody's safe when they're opening cabinets, electrical cabinets, we also do that. Any questions more on electrical power, you can always reach out to us and we'll explain or try to help you out as much as we can.
And the same with
Thank
cyber
you.
questions. The email addresses are on the screen. Don't hesitate to use them. We will certainly assist you, even if it's just a quick answer. And we can just go from there.
Awesome. Scott, Tom, Robert, thank you so much for your time and your insight. Thank you for everyone who is watching us on Facebook, joined us here on the Zoom today, for spending your lunch hour with us. We did record this Wednesday Wisdom session, and it will continue to live on our Facebook page, and we'll try to get a link to that assessment from Phasor so folks can get an idea if they want to tap into those resources. But this will also be living on our YouTube page to be accessed in the future, and for you to share with any one of your colleagues that you feel deserves to know this information, or just friends out there in the world. If you have a topic that you'd like for us to cover here on Wednesday Wisdom, please let us know by emailing us at events@WyomingValleyChamber.org. I don't even know what I was saying. If you haven't done so already, please check out our website at WyomingValleyChamber.org to see all of our upcoming events that are happening and checking out some of the amazing members that we have on there. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.